Hey, Keefe, Metro Police, come over here. Hey, Metro Police, come over here, all right? Thanks, buddy. Come on over here. Appreciate your cooperation, okay?
You can hear the officers calling out the man living inside, Dwayne Keith Davis, known as Keefe D, who has claimed he is one of only 2 surviving eyewitnesses to the murder of Tupac Shakur.
Keep walking back, take a step.
Against Dwayne Keefe D. Davis in the murder of Tupac Shakur reveal more on what police found at his Henderson home during their investigation.
After nearly 3 decades, justice finally caught up with Keefe D, who was arrested for the murder of Tupac Shakur, and a lot of hip-hop fans were here for it. Keefe D had been openly boasting about his and his crew's involvement in Tupac's killing, even going as far as publishing a book detailing it.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and read from the book.
Well,
so
let them buy the book then.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna read this passage. Was on. Tupac made an erratic move and began to reach down beneath his seat to see them. Instead, Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fireworks started. One of my guys from the back seat grabbed the Glock and started busting back. The first shot, skin shook in the head, was dead.
But here's the twist. While there's already a mountain of incriminating evidence against him, sources suggest there's still more that hasn't been made public yet. Stuff that could make this case messier than anyone expected, and maybe drag a few more names into it.
All the rest of us, like Dog said, we not going to Vegas, cuz. So everybody, Dog stayed home and did what he was doing. Daz went and did what he was doing.
Let's get into it. So, the first real sign that Keefe D might end up behind bars came from Keefe himself. The man couldn't stop talking. For years, he went on a press tour of sorts, doing interviews and casually detailing his alleged involvement in Tupac Shakur's murder like he was narrating a movie. But the walls started closing in back in July 2023, when law enforcement finally made a bold move. Detectives raided Keefe's home in Henderson, Nevada. According to the warrant, they were looking for electronic devices like desktop computers, laptops, tablets, thumb drives, CDs, external hard drives, and any recordings, basically anything digital that could tie Keefe to what he'd been publicly bragging about.
You can hear the officers calling out the man living inside, Dwayne Keith Davis, known as Keefe D, who has claimed he is one of only 2 surviving eyewitnesses to the murder of Tupac Shakur.
Keep walking back, take a step to your left.
They didn't stop there. They were also looking for handwritten notes, manuscripts, and documents connected to YouTube videos, TV shows, books, and films related to Tupac's death. And they found a lot of stuff. Investigators uncovered an iPhone, several iPads, a Sky tablet, multiple Toshiba and HP laptops, and a USB drive, all potentially holding damaging information. They even found old photos from the 90s that reportedly featured people either involved in or close to those involved in the drive-by shooting. That wasn't all, they also recovered a copy of Keefe's own book, an issue of Vibe magazine with Tupac on the cover, 2 big black tubs filled with photos, what was described as purported marijuana, and most importantly, several .40 caliber bullets. That last detail had people speculating, were those the same caliber used in the actual shooting that killed Tupac? If so, it could be a major breakthrough.
More on what police found at his Henderson home during their investigation, including 2 giant bins of photographs and numerous clippings of the murder of Tupac Shakur dating back to 1996.
Fast forward to September 2023, after a 6-week grand jury heard all the evidence, Keefe was finally arrested near his home. But instead of realizing the seriousness of the moment, Keefe still seemed to be caught up in his own hype. Body cam footage from the arrest showed him telling officers this was the biggest case in Las Vegas history, almost like he was proud of it. He didn't seem to grasp how deep in trouble he really was.
So what they got you for, man?
Biggest case in Las Vegas history.
But reality has a way of hitting hard. And for Keefe, it's been nothing but downhill since then. Now he's been sitting in jail for over 2 years, and that cocky OG persona he used to flaunt, it's gone, completely stripped away. Once considered a respected figure from the streets of Compton, the guy who rubbed shoulders with Suge Knight, Eazy-E, and others, Keefe is now being mocked behind bars. According to insiders, many inmates see him as a clown who ran his mouth too much and ended up getting himself locked up for it. Word from inside says he's been struggling. He spent months in protective custody, likely to avoid retaliation or conflict. And the old image of him being this powerful gangster is starting to fade fast. One source even said folks in his own neighborhood don't see him the same anymore. Instead of being feared or respected, he's seen as a joke, a man who couldn't keep quiet and played himself into a murder charge. And to make things worse, his legal defense didn't exactly hit the ground running. After his trial date was set in early November, his lawyers didn't immediately apply for bail, which reportedly frustrated Keefe. He had hoped to get out and fight the case from the outside, but instead he remained stuck in custody watching the situation spiral. It wasn't until December 14th that his legal team finally filed a 33-page bail application. In it, they argued that Keefe's interviews about Tupac were purely for entertainment and meant to generate income, not confessions. But by then, the damage was done. And if all that wasn't bad enough, there have been multiple reports that Keefe has been getting roughed up in jail. According to Reggie Wright Jr., a former security boss at Suge Knight's DeathRow Records, Keefe has already been jumped several times behind bars. Reggie said, "Heard he done got whooped on about 3 times already in there, and I got that confirmed from a very, very good source. But nothing major. Just, you know, kicked, stomped, hit. Nothing like he gonna get when those dudes in the pen find out how he was saying that they soft."
Those 2 months is kicking his ain't it? That picture look bad.
But even with Keefe D finally facing what many see as long overdue karma, it looks like the story is far from over, and he might not be the only one going down. See, word on the street is that authorities found even more incriminating evidence during the raid on Keefe's house, evidence that hasn't been made public yet. According to insiders, law enforcement is holding back those details until the official trial begins, which means the full picture of what Keefe was sitting on is still under wraps. But here's the thing. Keefe's trial was recently postponed until next year, so whatever bombshells might be sitting in evidence bags or sealed files are staying hidden for now. But that hasn't stopped the speculation though. In fact, it's only made it worse. People are already throwing names around wondering who else might be implicated once the rest of the evidence comes out. And one of the names that keeps surfacing again and again is none other than Snoop Dogg. Now, this isn't coming out of nowhere. For years, fans and hip-hop heads have been revisiting the complicated relationship between Snoop and Tupac, especially in the days leading up to Pac's murder. To some, Snoop's behavior at the time, and after, has always felt off. There's even an old saying people use to describe the vibe, "A friend to all is a friend to none." And even in Pac's eyes, Snoop fit that quote perfectly and called him out on it before he died.
What about Snoop?
What about him? It's an open, free business. But I just know he'll have more problems without us than he would with us.
And if you look at the history, there are so many moments where Snoop's loyalty to Pac was questioned. First of all, Snoop Dogg's apparent betrayal may have stemmed from the very moment Tupac joined Death Row. A lot of insiders claim that Snoop was jealous when Tupac joined Death Row. Before Pac got there, Snoop was the biggest star on the label. But the moment Pac walked in, he took over, getting all the attention, and that didn't sit well with Snoop.
When Tupac joined Death Row, was Snoop jealous of Tupac joining Death Row?
Snoop definitely was a little razzled because he used to be in Snoop Dogg. And when Pac came, he demanded all the fucking attention and got it. Everybody had to move out the way when Pac got there. Okay?
And that jealousy started creeping into everything. One of the biggest moments that really broke their friendship happened after Tupac dropped Hit 'Em Up. At that point, things were already tense between Death Row and Bad Boy Records. In 1996, when they were in New York for the MTV Video Music Awards, Snoop started acting funny. First, he skipped out on a rehearsal for a planned Saturday Night Live appearance with Tupac. Then he went on a local New York radio station and publicly said, "I got nothing but love for Biggie and Puffy." Now this was obviously a huge slap in the face to Tupac. But according to insiders, Pac wasn't mad just because Snoop said he had love for Biggie. The real reason Tupac was pissed was because just a few days before, Snoop had been in the studio with him recording diss tracks aimed at Biggie and Puffy. And then out of nowhere, Snoop goes on the radio and acts like everything is cool. That felt like betrayal.
Pac was angry not only because they said, not just because of that interview. A couple weeks before that, people don't know that Pac and Snoop did songs dissing Biggie. I remember hearing it. But Pac looking at it like, come on, man, you were just in LA dissing him with me. Now you on the radio saying something different. You know what I mean? So I think that triggered some type of attention. You know?
Unfortunately, before they ever got the chance to really talk it out, Pac was killed, which brings us to that one piece of the story. According to those close to Snoop, like Corrupt, Daz Dillinger, and even Nate Dogg, Snoop personally told them not to go to Vegas that weekend. That's the same weekend Pac was fatally shot.
All the rest of us was like Dogg said, we not going to Vegas, cuz. So everybody Dog stayed home and did what he was doing. Daz went and did what he was doing.
The fact that Snoop encouraged his boys to stay back has always raised eyebrows, because it wasn't just a random call, it was specific. And it came at a very critical moment. Snoop himself never really offered a solid explanation about that choice. And that silence made people wonder if he knew something was about to go down. Some speculate he may have sensed the tension building or caught wind of something darker behind the scenes. Whatever the case, the timing of it all still doesn't sit right with a lot of fans, especially considering how he distanced himself from the whole situation afterward. After Tupac died, Snoop started changing his tune in interviews. Where he had once stood proudly as a death row soldier, suddenly he was giving softer takes. For example, he later claimed that his falling out with Pac wasn't personal, that Tupac just didn't understand that he never hated Biggie.
We on good terms before he died, because he didn't really understand the way I didn't really have no hate towards Biggie. I didn't really feel like he should continue to, to get at Biggie.
But to a lot of people, that excuse doesn't make sense. If Snoop never had a problem with Biggie, then why was he in the booth making diss records with Pac in the first place? Why play both sides? A lot of people believe that he was undermining Tupac's feelings, acting like Pac was the one who overreacted. But then, another betrayal that sealed it for many people came when Snoop supposedly collaborated with one of Tupac's killers. Big Dre was allegedly in the car when the shots that killed Pac were fired. A lot of folks point the finger at Orlando Anderson, but others believe Big Dre was the real shooter. And what did Snoop do? He worked with him. After Pac died, Big Dre started his own label, Runoff Records, and put out a mixtape called Hard White. That tape featured some big names, Warren G, MC8, and Snoop Dogg. When that news broke, people were furious. First off, where did Big Dre even get the kind of money to lock in those features? And why was Snoop working with someone who might have had something to do with Pac's death? To a lot of people, that said everything about how Snoop really felt about Pac.
Suge Knight revealing that, Snoop, he worked with Big Dre after Tupac got killed. And when I heard that, man, that was wild. For you to be working with somebody that was in the car with Keefe when Tupac got shot, that's crazy, man.
That's crazy, bro. Like, if you know this dude 100% is in a car with a person that killed your boy and you do a song with him, it just really shows how you always felt about Pac.
Now, while fans continue to piece things together about Snoop's actions, another name that's never left the conversation and never will is Diddy. His name is tied to the darkest allegations surrounding Tupac's murder. According to multiple sources and even Keefe himself, Diddy allegedly offered Keefe $1 million bounty to take out both Tupac and Suge Knight. So at the beginning of the 90s, a client of Keefe called Eric Von Zip Martin introduced him to Diddy at a party. They shook hands, and that was it for a while.
Through Zip Martin.
Okay.
Zip Martin already had a business relationship with the Southside Crips.
So Puffy elected to, let's align ourselves with these street guys, with Zip. And then through Zip came Keefe.
At the time, Diddy was still coming up. He wasn't the mogul we know today. He was hustling to make a name for himself, promoting artists, and doing whatever it took to stay in the mix. Their first real business deal came when Diddy rented a car from Keefe's crew, the Southside Compton Car Club, for Usher's Can You Get With It music video. The rental was supposed to cost $2,400, but after Usher went wild dancing on the roof and ended up damaging the car, Diddy paid $4,400 instead. That extra money supposedly went to Compton Hydraulics, a car shop owned by Keefe's family. These weren't just any cars either. Keefe's crew was known for rolling deep and flashy, customized lowriders, the kind that turned heads and made statements. Fast forward to the summer of '95, Keefe was invited to a major industry event called the Beat Summer Jam, which was hosted by Diddy himself. This was the party, packed with celebrities, industry execs, and some serious street presence, and Suge Knight was also in the building. According to Keefe, Suge didn't hide his jealousy. At that point, Diddy was riding high. Biggie's One More Chance was dominating the airwaves, and Bad Boy was on top. Suge approached Keefe at the party and asked how he knew Diddy. Keefe's reply was, same way everybody knows him, through drug dealing. But things started going south fast. Two major events would shift everything between Suge and Diddy. The first one was the 1995 Source Awards.
I won't have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing, come to death row.
The second was the murder of Big Jake, a close friend of Suge's, who was killed in a violent clash between Bad Boy and Death Row affiliates at a nightclub in Atlanta. Suge blamed Puffy for Big Jake's death, and tensions exploded from there. Keefe says that after the incident, someone from Bad Boy called him and said, "Your boy Big CEO is tripping," clearly referencing Suge Knight. Keefe's response was, "Just send us 40 to 59 tickets and we'll be there deep at every one of your shows." And that's exactly what happened. The Crips were handed backstage passes and rolled deep with Bad Boy across the West Coast. They were backstage at the hotels and always in the loop. Thanks to Zip and his close relationship with Diddy, Keefe and his crew always knew where Puffy was, what shows he was doing, and where he was staying. If anything were to go down, they had access.
And it was Puff. And he like, "You think it's cool to come out here and do concerts?" I'm like, "Why it wouldn't be cool?" So he like, "The big CEO dude." So
Suge.
Yeah.
But the paranoia wasn't one-sided. Keefe says Diddy was scared enough to start moving like a politician. According to Keefe, Puff hired former Navy SEALs to protect him. These weren't your average bodyguards. They were wearing earpieces, suited up like CIA agents, and stationed in the hotel room right next to Diddy's suite. Now here's where it all hits a chilling point. According to Keefe D, there was one night at a club when Zip and Puff called him over for a serious conversation. When Keefe walked up, Puff supposedly dropped a bombshell. "I got a couple problems I need handled, Big CEO and Pac." Keefe says he didn't flinch. "That's not a problem," he told Puff. "We can make that happen." And Puffy allegedly promised $1 million for the job, $1 million to take out Tupac and Suge Knight. But then, things started to go left between Keefe D and Death Row 2 over a few incidents that pushed everything over the edge. One of the earliest problems stemmed from a situation involving some women connected to Death Row. According to Keefe D, during the filming of a Death Row music video, he was present on set, and while one of the women was walking down the stairs, he accidentally brushed against her backside. He claimed it wasn't intentional. She told people that Keefe was some asshole from Death Row, which obviously didn't sit right with anyone. That wasn't all. Around the same time, Keefe and Suge's crews were scheduled to be at the same nightclub. What should have just been a tense night out turned explosive when someone shot at Suge's car outside the venue. Suge immediately suspected Keefe D was behind it, which only added fuel to the fire. And then came the fight that changed hip-hop forever. It started at a mall, where a friend of Keefe D's ran into members of a rival gang. He got jumped right there in public and was getting beat down when backup showed up. Once Keefe's guys arrived, they flipped the script, beat the rival gang down, and even snatched a Death Row Records chain off someone. That detail matters because Orlando Anderson, Keefe D's nephew, was involved in that fight. And as rumor has it, at the time, Diddy was allegedly offering $10,000 to anyone who could steal a Death Row medallion.
Puffy was saying we want to put this chain in in our video. And that's why the guys try to snatch the chain.
Fast forward to September 7th, 1996, the night of the Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas. Tupac, Suge Knight, Trayvon Lane, and the rest of their crew were walking through the MGM Grand when Trayvon spotted Orlando Anderson. He pointed him out to the group, and that was all Tupac needed to hear. Pac didn't hesitate. He walked straight up to Orlando, asked him, "You from South?" And before Orlando could even answer, Pac swung and punched him square in the face. Orlando dropped to the ground, and Pac's crew followed up with a savage group beatdown. They kicked him while he was down, stomping him out right there in the hallway. Hotel security eventually broke things up, but the damage was already done. Now for Keefe D, this was personal. Orlando was his blood, and seeing his nephew beaten like that in front of the world was beyond humiliating. Keefe had already been side-eyeing Suge and Death Row, calling them fake gangsters who just played tough for the cameras. That attack pushed him over the edge, and Puffy had allegedly already offered him $1 million reward to take out both Tupac and Suge. So now, with that extra motivation and real anger in his heart, Keefe says the decision was made. Keefe D later said they were cruising around looking for Tupac, hoping to catch him slipping after the fight. They knew he was supposed to be at Club 662 that night, and when he didn't show up immediately, they almost gave up. But fate played its hand. Pac was out the window of Suge's BMW, signing autographs for fans, and that's when they spotted him. Keefe would say later, "If he hadn't been out the window, we wouldn't have even seen him."
So you guys are driving around, and then you hear these girls say, "Tupac, Tupac."
Flamingo and got to the light. We used to go drink and smoke some weed. and he happened to be hanging out the window. He's hanging out the window like he was in a parade.
Tupac.
Yeah, he was.
With Keefe D stuck behind bars and the rumored evidence still under wraps, his upcoming trial is shaping up to be one of the most highly anticipated moments in hip-hop history, not just to see his fate, but to find out who else might get dragged into the case.